Today we're going to be focusing on a beat with a nice chord progression, some vocals to it, a clean little guitar melody to just kind of even it out, make it sound real good, something catchy. Let's get into it. All right, so this video is going to be a mixture of a couple different things. We're going to break down this beat. I'm going to show you the chord progression and everything I did on how to build it. Everything else I added, the guitars I recorded, the drums, and I'm also going to give you this MIDI for free so you could download it and use it for your beats. So with that said, let's get into it. Make sure to stick around for the whole video. And I've never said this before in the beginning of a video. If you enjoy the content on this channel, hit the thumbs up on this video. And if you are not subscribed yet, but you're already watching the video, hit the subscribe button. Get the notifications. So earlier I made this beat and I wanted to give away the chord progression, the MIDI, for free. So I thought, okay, cool, I could put a video together, explain how to make these type of beats or how I like to make these type of beats. And then right there I can give away, the MIDI for free. So let's get into what this actually sounds like first. So the beat is crazy. I really like how this one came out. I love the chord progression. And like I said, I'm going to give it to you guys for free. But let's get into how I made it. So this is actually the chord progression right here. And you can see it's pretty advanced, right? There's a lot going on. It's going to be real dope for you to download and use. But I want to break down how I went about making this. So I definitely built out some bigger chords, right? But I did start with triads. So what I did is over here, I made a simplified version of this piano. Actually, it's here, right? So here it is, simplified without any of the extra little notes. And then over here, I broke it down into like the triads of it. So this is what the chord progression sounds like. I am going to explain it, but I want you to hear what it sounds like without like all the passing notes and cool stuff that was going on. Now let's break it down into triads with the bass note lower an octave. Right, and this is like a very basic version of it. So let's go over here and let me show you what I did. This isn't like necessarily exactly how I started it off, but this is like the bones of the actual chord progression being played. So simple triad chords, right? And then I took the octaves and I brought them down. And an actual chord progression, I brought it down a whole another octave, but this is easier to look at. We can honestly go like this, and then you can really just see that it's just 3 chords, right? The same 3 over here, but reversed. And then I have like 2 passing chords. This one is only 2 notes. Then it goes to a higher chord, and then we go back down to the original chord progression, but backwards, where we start on G, but over here G was our 3rd chord. So then as it gets a little bit more advanced, you start to see some cluster notes right here. You see them over here again. You also start to see the chords get bigger, and we go to like 7th, 9th chords, right? And then there's also a little bit more clustering. So for this, we're in B minor. So if I bring up the B minor scale real quick, you can actually see what's going on, right? So if we go here, you'll see I built a chord here, and then I made it a 7th chord, right? So we started on the root of B. Then we skipped one, we went up to a 3rd, a 5th, and then a 7th, right? And then I didn't go to necessarily a 9th chord here. What I did is kind of add clustering inside the scale, and you see this B, gets brought up again, but since it's close to that A, it kind of gives a little bit of tension. And then you'll see that this D over here got duplicated and brought up an octave as well, right? So just simple things like that going on throughout the chord progression to kind of make these chords sound like I guess you could say a bit more jazzier is the best way I'd explain it. So here's what it sounds like, in the triad form. And then over here, it's just bigger chord that sounds a lot better, especially with those root notes. So from there, it ended up just becoming some of these being moved in a little bit, as you could see. Little breakups, some passing notes going on, or grace notes. I forgot what they're called. Someone did explain it in the last video for me. I always forget what they're called. Then we have a couple more going on here, and just like added in little notes to kind of give it a melody, and then we ended up getting this. Just sounds so perfect. So then after that, what I did was went into arcade and I got this vocal. So let me go ahead and play that. right? And let me show you what the processing is on that, because I did processing inside of Arcade. Because by itself it sounded good, but it didn't sound like the best, so I added a huge reverb to it. As you can see, the reverb's up pretty high. I have a pretty big size on it and a huge decay. So with that reverb, without that reverb, this is what it sounds like. And then with it, just a lot better. There's a little bit of EQ going on there as well, I believe. And then I have one other vocal right over here. I wrote off a lot of low end on that and added a big reverb to it. And then we'll get into the drums in a second. After that, I went ahead and added a few guitar notes. You guys know that I mostly record my guitars in parts because I'm not the best at guitar, but I'm getting better. This is what I played on the guitar. I'm gonna just let you hear it and then I'll go ahead and show you. This is the first guitar part that I played. Right, and that's just getting ran through some processing. By itself, doesn't sound too good. And it's just some simple guitar rig. Then the second guitar is this. Right, without processing. And then the third guitar is this. Just a quick little slide, right? And then let's do without processing as well. So you can see the processing really helped out a lot for this. As I mentioned, it's this guitar rig with the preset and a lot of reverb and EQ on it. So then when we add those all together, we get this. So much emotion to it, right? And then for the hi-hats, I went simple. For these, I really just ended up, if you could see, these bigger notes is what I started with. So I got a rhythm down, right? And this is the rhythm that I went with. Let me go ahead and actually, what I could do is just mute these like this. And then you can hear the original. So let me put the clap in so you can hear what's going on with that. And we can keep time. Go back to the hi-hat. Right, and that just helps out a lot. What that did was kind of give it a bounce at first, and then all I needed to do was add in a few rolls, which you're going to see here and here. And right here, the velocity just goes up. You can select it like that, and then right-click and drag up, right? So we can go like that. We can also drag down if we start. Let me zoom in so you can see. You can go like this, or click right here, right-click, and go up. So that's what I ended up doing for this. But let me bring it back to what it was. And then a small one here as well. And then this additional note that's not over here. And that's really all there was for the hi-hat. And then I added in a little snare that's, you know, kind of add like a little bit of swing to it. And it plays really good off those hi-hats if you listen to it. Let me just show you how much bounce it has. I know it's super simple, but it really does. Small things really can add a lot of bounce to the beat. And then we brought the kick in. Kick's pretty simple. That part I love. Adds even more bounce to it, right? Now if we add all these in besides the 808, we get something like this. And if you see, I paid attention to the pockets, and that's a really good thing to do, especially with these vocals, right? So right here, I have a pretty big pocket where there's a long chord. So I went ahead, and that's where I have this little guitar part playing, and then the second part of that vocal comes in. And then over here, there's another chord being held out. So I kind of snuck in one more vocal, right? And since there's 3 guitar parts, I kind of have them spaced out to play at different times. So you'll see that they're not all really playing, you know, very close together. They're pretty spaced out. Like from here, these two, right? You can see these little dots right here where it triggers the guitar that I played. There's a pretty big space all the way over here, and I'm not even really playing anything crazy right here. It just lets it fade out till it gets over here. And then I utilize reverb and delays to kind of make it seem like it's stretched out way over there, but I don't have a lot going on with the guitar, just a couple little melodies. And for the 808, I followed the root notes and added in a couple extra notes. And this is what we got for the 808. Not too much to explain here. It really just follows the bass of the piano. And then, there's a couple extra notes to kind of give it a little bit more bounce. And instead of going down here, I went up because it just registered a little bit more and it sounded better for this beat. We could have it go down, but G starts to get a little too wobbly. It could still sound good, but up higher it sounds a lot better. Just brings a lot more attention to it, and it cuts off faster. It just fit better with the beat. So that's really the full breakdown. It's about everything I did for this beat. Like I said, I started off with the chord progression. As I showed you, a simplified version of it, if I go over here again, was like this. This isn't exactly how I set it up, but if you wanted to try to create a chord progression like that, you can start off with some triads and a nice, little rhythm to it, and then try to add the seventh of it, make these seventh chords, make them ninth chords, add a little bit of clustering, just kind of get creative with it, maybe get to this part and then add in a little bit more melody, and then you can get something that sounds like this. The more you do it, the more you get used to it, and you can kind of build them out, right? But if you do want to start a bit easier, maybe you could just start with some triads, how I showed, this broken down, like very, very simple. And then, like I said, I like to just add vocals and then record some guitar, and I just get like a dope beat. So as mentioned, you could download that chord progression MIDI in the description below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site, lifestyledidit.com, for everything else. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.